What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for NFL Week 11, Thursday Night Football.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon
so you don't miss our new videos.
Okay, in this video, I'm going to give you my top picks for the Thursday Night Football Showdown between the Green Bay Packers and the Tennessee Titans. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, NFL Week 11, let's take a look at this Thursday Night Football Showdown between the Green Bay Packers and the Tennessee Titans. So I think both of these quarterbacks are in play here tonight. My preference though, I like Aaron Rodgers from the Green Bay Packers playing the Tennessee Titans, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall. They give up the fourth most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers has averaged 15.6 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 1.6 rush attempts per game. He's going to be about 56% owned, projected at 16.7 fantasy points here tonight. He's 10,400 DraftKings salary. Vegas thinks there's going to be 41 points scored in this game, with the Green Bay Packers favored by 3. So Aaron Rodgers has scored 20, 17, and 16 fantasy points in the last 3 games, and he got 2, 4, and 1 rush attempts in those games. So his fantasy point production has been ramping up for the past 3 weeks. Now he's got a fantastic matchup here tonight. His wide receivers are starting to pull it together. Allen Lazard is healthy, and he's got another guy we'll talk about in a minute that's kind of creeping out of the woodwork. So I like Aaron Rodgers here versus the Tennessee Titans. Okay, let's take a look at the running back position. So the stud on the slate, captain material, is Derrick Henry from the Tennessee Titans playing the Green Bay Packers, who have a good defense overall. They give up the 9th most fantasy points to opposing running backs. Derrick Henry has averaged 21.4 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 22.4 rush attempts per game and 2.3 pass targets per game. He's going to be about 79% owned, projected at 21.5 fantasy points here tonight. He's 11,600 DraftKings salary, and Derrick Henry has scored 9, 27, and 39 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 19, 17, and 32 rush attempts on top of 3, 0, and 1 pass target. So he had a bad week last week, but I think he's in a good bounce back spot. So I like Derrick Henry here versus the Green Bay Packers. The other running back I like, so for the Green Bay Packers, they got the two-headed monster going. They're sharing the load between Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. So I'll go over both of these guys. So Aaron Jones from the Green Bay Packers, he's playing the Tennessee Titans, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they've been pretty good versus opposing running backs. Aaron Jones has averaged 17.2 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 13.1 rush attempts per game and 4.2 pass targets per game. He's going to be about 54% owned, projected at 15.6 fantasy points here tonight. He's 11,200 DraftKings salary, so only 400 less than Derrick Henry, which kind of puts me off of Aaron Jones a little bit, but he certainly could get 20 plus touches here tonight and a couple of touchdowns and be the highest scoring running back on the slate. So Aaron Jones has scored 27, 7, and 23 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 24, 9, and 20 rush attempts on top of 2, 2, and 5 pass targets. Now, the Green Bay Packers have turned into a run-first team or a run-heavy team, so lots of rush attempts for the Green Bay Packers. So you got upside with Aaron Jones, who's also part of the passing game every so often. Only 2 pass targets last 2 games, or 4 pass targets the last 2 games, but he is averaging 4.2 pass targets per game on the season, so he certainly could be involved in the passing game. So I like Aaron Jones here versus the Tennessee Titans.
Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching.
If you want to enter the drawing for $25 PayPal,
all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won.
And we'll send you $25 PayPal.
So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you.
Okay, now the other running back for the Green Bay Packers, and he is a significantly less expensive play here. Take a look at A.J. Dillon, and playing the Tennessee Titans. We know they have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall. They've been good versus opposing running backs. A.J. Dillon, he's averaging 7.7 fantasy points per game on the season, but he's getting an average of 11.1 rush attempts per game and 2.5 pass targets per game, so pretty decent volume. And A.J. Dillon's going to be about 29% owned, projected at 8.3 fantasy points here tonight. He's 6,600 DraftKings salary, and he scored 7, 6, and 7 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 13, 11, and 10 rush attempts on top of 0, 4, and 1 pass target. So I am a little bit hesitant to go with the Green Bay Packers running backs. It's a tough matchup. And then it's hard to know how they're going to share the ball. Is A.J. Dillon going to come in there and get the goal line carries? Is Aaron Jones going to get 24 rush attempts like he did last week? These guys share the backfield, so it's hard to know which one of these guys is going to score more fantasy points. But A.J. Dillon, at only 6,600 DraftKings salary, feels like he has a little bit more value potential here, whereas Aaron Jones at 11,200, he needs over 20 fantasy points to get you value, whereas Derrick Henry, averaging over 20 fantasy points for only 400 more. So I would go with Derrick Henry or A.J. Dillon, but Aaron Jones absolutely could have a big night as well. So all 3 of these guys are in play. So I like A.J. Dillon as a value play here versus the Tennessee Titans. Okay, let's take a look at the wide receiver position. So my favorite wide receiver on the slate is Allen Lazard from the Green Bay Packers, playing the Tennessee Titans, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall. They give up the second most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. Allen Lazard has averaged 14.2 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 6.9 pass targets per game. He's been on the field for 81% of the snaps, going to be about 42% owned, projected at 13.1 fantasy points here tonight. He's 8,600 DraftKings salary, and Allen Lazard has scored 8 and 19 fantasy points in his last 2 games off of 4 and 10 pass targets. Great matchup. So I like Allen Lazard here versus the Tennessee Titans. Now the other wide receiver for the Packers you want to consider, he had a fantastic week last week, exploded out of nowhere, is Christian Watson, and he's averaging 8.9 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 3.1 pass targets per game. He's going to be about 29% owned, projected at 9.8 fantasy points here tonight. He's 7,400 DraftKings salary. And Christian Watson scored 36 fantasy points off of 8 pass targets last week. So it looks like he's going to get more pass targets than his season average. after last week's performance, I'm sure that he's going to get the ball quite a bit here tonight. So I think your top 2 wide receivers for the Packers are Allen Lazard and Christian Watson here versus the Tennessee Titans. Okay, now for the Tennessee Titans, I like Robert Woods, and he's only averaging 6.2 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 4.8 pass targets per game, but he did get 7 pass targets last game. Now, he only scored 3 fantasy points, and I'll be honest with you, he has not been good so far this season, but he has been on the field for 73% of the snaps, going to be about 32% owned, projected at 7.5 fantasy points here tonight. He's $6,800 DraftKings salary, and the Green Bay Packers, they have a good defense overall. They've been middle of the pack defending opposing wide receivers. So, I don't know, it's just kind of a gut feeling. I feel like Robert Woods is due for a big game. So, I like Robert Woods here versus the Green Bay Packers.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. Our NBA tools are awesome. This is a great time to get in and try everything for 1 month. The tools are all about saving research time. You can see the last 3 games, the fantasy points per game, the targets they got per game, so you can see how involved they are in the offense, the rushes they got per game. Seeing all this stuff on one screen helps you save time and make better picks. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Now, the other 2 guys you can consider here are Nick Westbrook or Treylon Burks. So, Nick Westbrook, he's averaging 5.9 fantasy points per game on the season, only getting an average of 2.6 pass targets per game, but he got 8 pass targets last week, scored 32 fantasy points, been on the field for 72% of the snaps, going to be about 16% owned, and he's projected at 6 fantasy points here tonight. So, although he's had a big game last week, not a lot of people are buying into this play. He's $6,200 DraftKings salary. And outside that game last week, he has not done much throughout the season. But I do like Nick Westbrook here versus the Green Bay Packers. And the other wide receiver that I'd consider, who actually looks like he's going to be in a pretty good spot here, is Treylon Burks from the Tennessee Titans. Only averaging 5.9 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 4.4 pass targets per game. But he's been on the field for 97% of the snaps, going to be about 25% owned, projected at 7.8 fantasy points here tonight, and he's only $5,200 DraftKings salary, so I like that price tag. Treylon Burks has scored 5, 4, and 3 fantasy points in the last 3 games, off of 6, 3, and 2 pass targets. Oh, and he got 2 rush attempts the past 3 games as well, so that's interesting. And his pass targets have been ramping up the past 3 weeks. So just because he's low salary here, I think he is in a good spot, should get a handful of targets. So I like Treylon Burks here versus the Green Bay Packers. Now you can also consider Sammy Watkins for the Green Bay Packers. He scored 8 fantasy points last week off of 3 pass targets. Been on the field for 95% of the snaps. Only going to be about 8% owned, but I think he has fallen out of favor a little bit for Christian Watson. So just be aware of that. And Sammy Watkins only going to be about 8% owned, so I'd call him a sleeper pick here tonight. So I like Sammy Watkins as a sleeper pick here versus the Tennessee Titans. Okay, moving on to the tight end position. I like Robert Tonyan from the Green Bay Packers playing the Tennessee Titans, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall. They're middle-of-the-pack defending opposing tight ends. Robert Tonyan has averaged 7.7 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 4.7 pass targets per game. Now, he's going to be about 29% owned, projected at 7.3 fantasy points here tonight. He's 5,800 DraftKings salary, and although his performance has been pretty bad the last 3 games, he is one of my favorite plays here tonight. Robert Tonyan has scored 2, 6, and 9 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 1, 4, and 6 pass targets. So I like Robert Tonyan here versus the Tennessee Titans. The other tight end you can consider is Austin Hooper from the Tennessee Titans. Now, the Green Bay Packers have a good defense overall. They've been pretty good versus opposing tight ends. Austin Hooper only averaging 4 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 2.8 pass targets per game, but he's going to be about 17% owned, projected at 5.1 fantasy points here tonight. He's 4,600 DraftKings salary, and Austin Hooper has scored 9, 5, and 2 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 7, 3, and 1 pass target. So those 7 pass targets last game certainly are encouraging. So I think he's a decent play here if you want to save some salary, come down from Robert Tonyan, or play them both. So I like Austin Hooper here versus the Green Bay Packers.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NFL slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.